From mayoral race outcomes in Calgary and Edmonton to a fall sitting filled with legislation and a lingering strike by Alberta teachers. Time now for tonight's politics panel. And joining us this evening, Donna Kennedy-Glans, former MLA and cabinet minister, and now columnist with the National Post. And Brendan Boyd is an associate professor of political science at MacEwan University. Good evening to you both, and let's begin on the filtering down of results from Monday's municipal elections. Donna, we heard from Calgary's mayor-elect, Jeremy Farkas, off the top this evening. How much of a message is there to be taken from voters, given the outcome of less than 600 ballots between Jeremy Farkas and Sonia Sharp?
Oh, I think the themes of the issues that were identified in this race, as he noted, were very clear. Safety, blanket rezoning, infrastructure, making sure we maintain it, and we're a growing city. And he made it clear, you know, he's not afraid of Calgary reaching the 2 million mark. And that's an opportunity, not a fear. So that positive message, I think, landed really, really well. But it was a very heated race in Calgary.
Well, Brendan, where Jeremy Farkas is concerned, what's to be made of this as a political comeback?
Yeah, so I was thinking that too, and you know, I don't want to draw any comparisons in terms of personality or policies or anything like that, but there is a little bit of in terms of the trajectory with Danielle Smith, who, you know, was not, if we remember back, was not thought of as a viable candidate. Was kind of, you know, thought that their career might have been over in politics, and then makes a comeback. And Jeremy Farkas's really interesting case where, you know, he's talked about some of the personal reflections that he went on and has really come back and reinvented himself as someone who's willing to work across different divides, bring people together, be a bridge builder, talks about focusing on solutions and practicality. Like, this is a big change. And, you know, I think it's something that Calgarians found authentic because he was able to you know, win the election on that persona and on that change.
Donna, how different a Jeremy Farkas do you feel Calgarians should expect compared to the mayoral candidate who ran and lost to Jyoti Gondek last time around?
Well, I certainly think he'll be saying no a few times less. I mean, I went back and looked at his record on voting, and he did. It's credible. He said no to most things that were pitched. I think now he realizes that he is the leader of the team. He has to create a shared vision of what is possible. And if he's got people voting no, like he did to others, he'll have a very difficult time. But there has been a very significant change in council. We're getting the numbers in now, and it looks like, you know, we don't have very many incumbents. We've got a lot. We've got a clean slate here almost. So I think he will be able to influence people. If he encounters councillors who are like himself, I think he probably will know what to do. I sure hope so, because he's had that experience.
Well, and Brendan, we asked him about the anticipation of the relationship with the Smith government. How do you see a Calgary City Council led by Jeremy Farkas working with Danielle Smith and her cabinet?
So I think it's possible that there could be more areas of alignment than maybe under the previous mayor and council. And so, you know, I think the best approach would be to start there, find out what you can work together on, and then build the relationship, build some goodwill working on those things. And then you move on to tackling some of the things that are maybe, you know, you are a little further apart, and hope that some of that goodwill and that trust can actually grease the wheels to get even more things done. So I think potentially maybe a little bit more cooperative. That's certainly the tone that's being struck. And I think there's a real chance that does happen as the years unfold.
Donna, you agree with that? Do you see an improved relationship dynamic between Alberta's biggest city and the provincial government?
It wouldn't take much to improve things. It was pretty tough. It was a very, very acrimonious relationship. I interviewed Mayor Gondek last spring, and she was talking about being a victim of the provincial government and the federal government. And you know, a leader of a big city in Canada, one of the driving economic forces, calling herself a victim. I don't see this new mayor seeing himself as a victim or talking that way. I think it will be a constructive a relationship of equals. I think it'll, he's not going to roll over. He made that very clear. He's not going to be partisan. So I think Calgarians will hold him to that. And I think it will be an transparent, open exchange of ideas. So I look forward to that.
All right. Now up the QE2, Andrew Knack is Edmonton's mayor-elect.
Edmontonians spoke loud and clear, choosing optimism and hope over big money and party politics.
The three-term city councillor ran independently and overcame a major fundraising gap during the election to his main rival, Better Edmonton Party mayoral candidate Tim Cartmell. Brendan, would you go so far as to say Andrew Knack's election as mayor is a rejection of party politics in Edmonton? How do you weigh the outcome?
Yeah, I mean, there are, I think, 4 councillors that are being elected under the Better Edmonton Party, and we'll see what that looks like once they are in council and how they operate. But I wouldn't say it's a total rejection because we do have some councillors that have affiliated with the party. But at the mayoral level, sure, I think, even Tim Cartmell started talking partway through the election about how once they got in, they weren't going to sort of operate as a party. And I think, he read the tea leaves, and we kind of see from the results that, yeah, this wasn't something that Edmontonians were clamoring for. And, in some cases, even I think it was a strength for Knack to be able to say, look, I'm an independent, I'm not part of a party.
Donna, how do you feel this outcome will land with the Smith government?
Oh, you mean the outcome of these 2 mayors or the councils?
Specifically, the outcome of the mayoral race in Edmonton with Andrew Knack winning that one.
Oh, I think it will be constructive. He's got good experience. He knows what to ask for. He knows what the relationship looks like. I think he's got a good council team coming together, and I think it'll be quite positive. I think it'll be transparent. We know what people are asking for across the province. I think that was clarified in this election, and that's a good thing. So I think they have an obligation to move forward on those expectations.
Brendan, what do you anticipate for relations between the Smith government and in Edmonton City Council, quarterbacked by Andrew Knack?
Yeah, I may be a little less optimistic than Donna is. I think similar to Calgary, there's a pretty tough relationship over time. We had sort of the province, talking to specific councillors rather than going through the mayor's office or through the city. And, there is a little bit more, I think, a bit more of a political advantage to positioning yourself as opposed to the UCP as a municipal candidate. So we'll see. I think she's absolutely right that Andrew Knack has the experience, will be practical about what he asks for, that type of thing. I do think that the councillors around him, some of them will want to push maybe a little bit more against the province.
All right. Well, and we will be speaking with Andrew Knack tomorrow. Time for us, though, to take a bit of a break. When we come back, the fall sitting of the legislature is almost here. So what will it bring? More from our politics panel in a moment. Welcome back. MLAs head to the legislature Thursday for the speech from the throne. That's ahead of the fall sitting. And just a day after announcing an amended bill to limit who can and cannot run in elections, the government now clarifying only small clerical changes are coming.
The purpose of a good election is to have candidates who take the position seriously, who are not using the process of our election rules and our election laws to take advantage of them and create protests and havoc and confusion.
An upcoming bill will require more signatures for candidate nominations, while also prohibiting people from signing more than one nomination paper. And it follows controversy over long ballot initiatives during federal votes. The bill, one of 15 pieces of legislation the Smith government expects to introduce during the fall sitting. Donna, let's quickly first touch on this bill to combat long ballot protests. How necessary is it from a provincial perspective?
Oh, I think it sends a message. And the fact that Paul Aubert actually ran in Alberta and this happened in Alberta means that we have to do something about it here. I've taken a look at it. It's pretty innocuous, basically saying if you are going to endorse someone for a nomination, you can only endorse one person. So we don't have, hundreds and hundreds of names being put forward by a very few number of people. So I think it's a wise move. It's strategic. It's something that has to be done. And I do think it is pretty innocuous.
Brendan, this particular bill came to light when it was highlighted during a session preview news conference. It was held by Government House Leader Joseph Scow at the start of the week. What does that say to you about how the government is approaching the session ahead?
Well, I mean, it might be that this is a piece of legislation, like Donna said, maybe it's fairly straightforward, and maybe it's something that they can kind of get done, if we want to call this like low-hanging fruit. So, I think that they're starting with that. I think it also signals that, to me, it looks like there's a few different things going on. Like it's a bit of a mishmash of different initiatives, some house cleaning, that kind of thing. I wouldn't see it as a particularly aggressive or ambitious legislative agenda that they put forward. It's finishing some things, cleaning up some things. So yeah, it might be more of an incremental adjustment type of session rather than a big, bold legislative session.
Donna, with that in mind, what kind of message are you looking for now from the Smith government in Thursday's speech from the throne?
Oh, and I think to follow on Brendan's point, the speech from the throne will be very different than what we're seeing in the legislative lineup. When I interviewed Premier Smith early in September, she hoped to be able to talk about in that speech from the throne a nation-building oil pipeline. She's not going to be able to talk about that, and I suspect she's going to talk a great deal about nation building and Alberta's role in that, and our need for things like the tanker ban off the West Coast and the cap on emissions to come off if we're going to actually be competitive. November 3rd or 4th, the Grey Cup, is when Carney has promised to update that list of nation-building projects, and that's soon. So I suspect that will be the focus of the throne speech.
Brendan, how likely is that throne speech to put a spotlight on the teachers' strike, especially considering another significant rally is expected to bring a sea of red to the legislature grounds tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't know that it would be something they highlight in the throne speech, because that's a little more forward-looking and sort of bigger, strategic type of thing. But certainly in this legislative session, they've said everything's on the table in terms of options. And so, everyone's going to be watching to see if one of the first things they do is put forward legislation that would mandate that teachers go back to the classrooms. So yeah, it's definitely something that they haven't given any clarity on, but they've hinted at is coming. And I think that's because they want to be nimble. This is a moving target. The situation is changing, daily or weekly for sure. And so it's there, but we'll see what happens because, we'll just see. It's kind of changing from day to day, I think.
Okay, Donna, let's talk personalities. How much of a spotlight do you expect there will be on Naheed Nenshi this session now that the NDP leader will have a seat to sit in?
Oh, I think great attention will be paid to Naheed Nenshi. That's what he wants. He's the leader of the opposition. He should be able to be in the legislature, putting questions to the government. Healthcare and education will be his focus. This is his platform. He needs it to be able to amplify those messages. I think he's long overdue to be there. So I think that's important. I think he'll get lots and lots of attention for sure.
And Brendan, what kind of pressure will the NDP leader be under to perform in this fall sitting, raise the profile of the opposition?
I think there is some pressure because, when he was elected, obviously he wasn't someone who came up through the NDP, and he was sort of elected as a strategic choice to be able to go against Danielle Smith, I think, and take that on, move the party where it needed to go to form power. And so those expectations are there. And frankly, there hasn't been a lot of visibility of the party and its leader in the last, since he won the leadership. And, that could be on purpose. The election is still a couple years away. And so, but I think now he has the seat. He's going to be able to stand across from her on during the session, that type of thing. This is now, I think, the time where, he needs to start showing that he's an alternative, showing that the NDP is an alternative, and taking the government to task on, the range of things that have been out there over the last couple of years.
All right, folks, we'll have to leave it there for time. Good to see you both. Thank you kindly.